We are joined right now by Nikki Gaskins Campbell. She is joining us from FEMA. If we can get the cameras right here, I apologize. Let's see. I'll let Devin come over here and run this for the most part. Nikki, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. All right. I can't hear Nikki.
Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3.
There you are. Okay, I can hear you now, Nikki.
Okay.
You're joining
All right,
us
good.
this afternoon because we're talking about an extension when it comes to the deadline to apply for storm recovery assistance from FEMA. For many East Texas counties, we know that deadline was fast approaching. It was supposed to happen in the middle of this month, but we got word this morning from you guys that that deadline has now been extended by about a month and a day. Kind of explain to us why this is and who this affects.
So the state of Texas requested an extension to the previous deadline, which, as you mentioned, was July 16th, and FEMA approved their request for an extension. So for people in your viewing area and across the state of Texas, that's certainly good news. That just now simply means that they have more time to apply for disaster assistance if they haven't already done so.
And remind us about this assistance. When we talk about storm recovery assistance, who is eligible? Who does this apply to?
So we currently have about 35 counties that are eligible for our individual assistance program. So if you are a disaster survivor who lives in one of those counties and you suffer damage to your primary residence as a direct result of these recent storms, we encourage you to reach out to us. Your insurance is always going to be your first line of defense, but then you may have some additional expenses that you may need to see if you're eligible for with us. Our disaster assistance comes in the form of grant money that does not have to be repaid. And this is grant money that is designed for those who are eligible to be used in their recovery from the storms. One of the big questions that's often asked of me is, well, how can this money possibly be used? One of the big ways that it can be used is for your basic home repairs. We want to make sure for those who are eligible can get in their home so it's safe, just sanitable, and also habitable. And so that's important to know. But also in some other instances, this disaster assistance can be used for medical. Also funeral expenses for some people, childcare. There's just a couple of different ways. Whether you're a renter or a homeowner, we encourage you to reach out to us because you could be leaving money on the table if you do not. One of the big questions that I hear often is, well, I make too much money, but the reality is your income is not dependent on whether you can receive FEMA assistance. Another question I often hear is, well, I have insurance. I have either renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, but the reality is, maybe you don't have enough. So you can still apply if you have insurance. So we encourage people to reach out to us because they could be leaving money on the table. And most importantly, we encourage disaster survivors to not wait. Yes, there was an extension, but the sooner they apply, the sooner they may be eligible for assistance.
And Nikki, right now, I know you guys continue to operate many of these FEMA disaster recovery centers across East Texas. Some of the locations include, there's one at the Hub in downtown Tyler, Athens, Canton, several in Deep East Texas, including Woodville, also Trinity. These centers are open and available for people who want to go sit down, look another person in the eye, and really understand what resources may be available and whether or not they are eligible for that kind of assistance. Explain to us, if somebody walks into one of these centers, what will they encounter?
So we have these disaster recovery centers all over the state of Texas. We have many of them, in fact, and they can go to FEMA.gov/DRC to find the nearest disaster recovery center near them. But this is your one-stop shop. We are trying to meet the disaster survivor where they are in their situation. We understand they have probably a lot of stress from the recent storms. Recovery is not easy. It's long, unfortunately, and it's stressful. So we are there to guide them, try to alleviate some of that stress by guiding them through the registration process. In addition to coming to us to register in person and talk to an actual human being, you can go there to check on the application, your application status, see where it currently stands. You can also meet with other agencies. We do have the Small Business Administration there. They're big partners in the recovery as well. So it's your one-stop shop. We encourage people to come out and see us because that's what we're there for. In addition to these fixed locations, we've had our crews out in the field. So we're just trying to cross all our T's and dot all our I's to make sure we reach as many people as possible. But you don't have to come to a disaster recovery center. It's not a requirement. We just offer those there as convenience and for people to talk to us face to face, but they can still reach us at disasterassistance.gov, disasterassistance.gov, and also by calling us at our 1-800-621-3362 number. They can also download the FEMA app. So there's a couple of different ways you can get to us, but we just, again, yes, the deadline has been extended, but just do not delay.
And you mentioned that there, do not delay. Even though the deadline has been extended, the idea here is this gives you extra time if you need it, but if you don't need that time, it's best to go ahead and begin this process just as soon as possible. Just a few reminders from our past conversations. Important to start with your insurance company. If you have insurance coverage, that should be step one, figuring out what they can cover when it comes to your policy. And then from there, even if you do have insurance, sometimes people are underinsured. Maybe they're having trouble getting certain things covered. That's where FEMA may be able to come in and help, right?
That is exactly right. We always tell people that if you do have insurance, that is always going to be your first line of defense, because by law, we cannot duplicate insurance payments. And also, just for the sake of managing expectations, any money that you receive from FEMA, if you are eligible, is typically not enough to make you whole. In other words, it will not usually take you back to your pre-disaster condition. Our assistance is focused on your short-term recovery. So it's grant money that's focused on just kind of giving you a hand up so you can continue with that recovery. I always say, we are a piece of the puzzle, but we are certainly not the entire piece for this recovery. It takes the state, it takes the local officials, it takes the nonprofits, it takes your religious organizations like many of your churches, all of us working collectively together. And also the Small Business Administration, they also help disaster survivors. So they're big partners in this as well. So it takes, a whole community working together to help one another.
All right, very good. Nikki Gaskins Campbell from FEMA joining us this afternoon on East Texas Now. Nikki, anything we're missing here that you think's important to the conversation?
As I've been stating for a while, our hearts and prayers certainly go out to all those who suffer damage. And we just want people to know that FEMA is here and will be here for quite some while. Recovery is never a sprint. It is always a marathon. So if you haven't started the recovery process, go ahead and please do so.
All right, very good. Nikki Gaskins Campbell with FEMA, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We appreciate it. All right, very good. And we're back with more East Texas Now right after this break.